Okay, welcome. This is our first demo for Drawing 1, and I'm going to be trying to do demos for each unit. And Unit 1 is on gesture. And so we're going to be talking about some different kinds of gesture drawing and also talking about different kinds of occasions when you do a gesture drawing and also about timing yourself and stuff like that. So for this unit, we have some gesture drawings as part of our sketchbook work. Gesture drawing is part of our master study, and the homework, everything is a gesture drawing. Some will be really, really quick, and some will be more extended. So let's start with, go ahead and focus on the bag over there just for a second. Okay, and then return back to the page. So we're going to do a gesture drawing here of that bag and those crumpled pieces of paper, and I'm going to do what's called a mass gesture, or at least I'm going to do a mass gesture to begin with. So when you're doing a mass gesture, you hold your drawing tool flat. I'm now going to switch tools. I'm switching to my black Conte. Earlier I was using my Vine charcoal, and I'm now switching to more like what we call a scribble gesture, a very linear type gesture. I'm using this to kind of help clarify what I'm seeing and what I'm putting down. Okay, and we end. So in that, we have contained a number of different things. One, we talked about mass gesture. Mass gesture is when you're using a drawing tool like your Vine charcoal or your black Conte, and you're holding it flat where you're making a big fat mark. And the goal of mass gesture is to try to see the whole, not to see details, not to see line, but rather to see mass, the mass of the thing. The term gesture drawing comes primarily out of figure drawing, where the goal is about when you're drawing a figure and you're trying to draw the figure really fast, and instead of trying to understand everything about the figure, you're just really trying to understand the action, the gesture that they're making. But the flip side of that is that gesture drawing then leads to drawings that are very gestural, meaning that the marks are very revealing of the action of your arm. Okay, so we covered mass gesture. We also talked about scribble gesture, which is not really a term that many people use, but we use it in our department because it helps to just clarify what we mean about gesture drawings that are very linear, right, where you're making scribbly kind of marks, right, and how that's a different kind of approach to seeing, a different approach to working compared to the mass gesture. But the one thing that you probably got from all of this was that I worked really fast. The whole point of mass drawing or gesture drawing is that you work very quickly, and the reason why you work quickly is so that you can see the whole, so you're not getting bogged down in little tiny details, but instead trying to understand the whole of the thing. So let's take another subject here, and let's look at the plant that's right there. So plants are often a really good, and landscapes also a good subject for gesture drawing of various kinds, because they're very complicated, and so understanding them as a whole can be very helpful. In this particular case, because it's in a square jar, there's not a whole lot to struggle with, at least at the bottom part. And then there is a whole heck of a lot to struggle with at the top. So as I'm doing this, notice I'm really starting to think in terms of value and shape instead of line. But I will come in with line, maybe to find a little bit more clarity, but I'm going to do it quickly. Not trying to be perfect about where any one of these succulent petals are of this Christmas cactus. I think it's a Christmas cactus. Instead, just trying to get a general sense of where things are. Okay, so that one also probably took about 3 minutes or so. So one of the things, so besides mass and scribble that was covered here, and also talking about looking for value, another thing that came up was the idea of not being afraid to make mistakes. In fact, when we do these in class, one of the things, and in fact on the next one I do, I'm going to do a demo where I literally will try to make a lot of mistaken lines to begin with, just to loosen up, and so that I'm not worried about when I might possibly make an error. If you're only concentrating on trying not to make a mistake, you're going to have a very tight and usually not a very enjoyable drawing. Okay, we have about 3 minutes left. So let's do the next subject, which is the bunny. So yeah, all right, and then come back to me. All right. So once again, I'm going to do this. Like I said, I'm going to just make kind of linearly a lot of wrong marks. I'm just going to make some that have nothing to do with the rabbit whatsoever, just to loosen up. Now I'm going to switch to mass. I'm going to switch back to Conte and more linear. And notice how I don't assume things are right. Just because I put a mark down, I'm willing to change it and edit and correct it multiple times, right? Part of the whole ethic of good gesture drawing is not feeling like something is fixed and solid, but instead feeling like all the way through the whole process, everything is open and negotiable. Everything is, we're willing to look and say, well, maybe that's right, maybe that's wrong. Get down to 1 minute. It's missing an eye right there. Tempted to draw it in, but it's not really there, is it? The dogs have ripped that thing into pieces. Okay, and so we end. So these marks, a lot of these marks were erroneous and kind of irrelevant, but they were useful because they freed me up to not worry. Once you've made a bunch of mistakes, then you don't have to worry about whether you're going to make any more mistakes. It's just a matter of just continually trying to get closer to right. So that ends for this session. In the next video, we're going to do a little bit more.